By 1914, after the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the world saw European powers taking sides in the coming war. And the two sides were the Central Powers, which had Germany, Austria-Hungary, the Ottoman Empire, which you'll see on the map in a second, and Bulgaria. The other side of the war was called the Allied Powers, or the Allies, and this was France, Great Britain, Russia, and Serbia. And as the war dragged on, you saw more countries joining the Allied Powers, including Italy, Japan, and eventually the US. This map of Europe shows you where the Central Powers and Allies were geographically. The countries that are in pink, including Spain, Morocco, Switzerland, and the Netherlands, were neutral, meaning that they didn't pick a side and tried to stay out of the war. Because of influences like nationalism, which caused Europeans to believe that their country was the best, both sides were optimistic and expected victory at the start of the war. In fact, many thought the war, which ended up lasting 4 years, would be over in 6 months. Look at these pictures of soldiers getting ready for World War I. They all seem optimistic. These feelings would not last for long. Because of this optimism, both sides started the war aggressively, making offensive maneuvers into enemy territory. Their optimism led them to believe that they would be able to crush their opponents easily. Although soldiers entered the war optimistic on both sides, after several early aggressive battles, they soon learned that they wouldn't be able to defeat each other easily, and the pace of the war slowed down as armies became less aggressive and more defensive. One of these early aggressive maneuvers came from Germany, and it was known as the Schlieffen Plan. It was Germany's invasion of Belgium, and it started on August 3, 1914. But it was actually planned years before, almost a decade before the war started, in 1905, by German General Alfred von Schlieffen. And the whole goal of the plan was to knock France out of the war quickly to avoid a two-front war. What I mean by a two-front war is that Germany didn't want to be fighting an opponent on both their eastern and western borders. They faced France in the west and Russia to the east, and they didn't want to have to split their troops up between the two sides of their country. So what the Schlieffen Plan did was organize a quick attack on France through the country of Belgium. The Germans thought that if they went through Belgium, they would be able to march into Paris and make France surrender within 6 weeks. And if France surrendered, then the Germans wouldn't have to fight a two-front war. They would only need to worry about their eastern border with Russia. So why did the Schlieffen Plan fail? Well, the Germans thought it would only take them 6 weeks to reach Paris and force a surrender. But the Belgian and French army put up a stronger fight than expected. Also, when Germany invaded Belgium, Great Britain declared war on Germany and sent troops to help push back against the German invasion. Another reason the plan failed was that in the east, the Russian army mobilized and attacked the eastern border of Germany sooner than expected. This forced the Germans to send 2 divisions of soldiers to the east, which made their attack in the west on France weaker. So with the failure of the Schlieffen Plan, Germans were forced to fight a two-front war, which had them fighting 2 mini-wars at the same time, one in the east against the Russians, and one in the west against the French and British. These 2 areas of battle are called the Eastern Front and the Western Front. Now we'll look more closely at 2 battles in World War I that show how aggressively the war started. These 2 battles are the Battle of Marne on the Western Front and the Battle of Tannenberg on the Eastern Front. The Battle of Marne was fought in northeastern France on September 5, 1914. German troops were moving in on the French capital, the city of Paris. So French General Joseph Joffre organized his troops around Paris to plan a counterattack on the Germans. Joffre even used hundreds of taxis to help get his soldiers in place for the counterattack. After 4 days of shelling, or heavy weapon fire, on the Germans, the French were able to push the Germans back 50 miles away from Paris. Because of this, Germans were forced to abandon the Schlieffen Plan, and the Battle of Marne on the Western Front showed that neither side was capable of a quick or easy victory. The Battle of Tannenberg between German and Russian troops on the Eastern Front was another example of how World War I was harder than expected. Russia sent troops to attack Germany before the Russians were mobilized, or prepared. They did this to distract German troops from the Western Front, and it started off well for the Russians. They invaded East Prussia in Germany by August 13th of 1914. However, in late August, when German and Russian troops met at Tannenberg in modern-day Poland, German troops formed a circle around Russian troops and killed over 30,000 Russians. They also captured over 92,000 Russians. The Germans at this battle suffered only 13,000 casualties. This was a big victory for Germany and the other Central Powers, and a defeat that the Russians never really recovered from. Casualty is a word that you need to know. A casualty is a soldier who is either killed or injured in battle. In conclusion, both the Central Powers and the Allies started off aggressively in World War I. Germany attacked on the Western Front with the Schlieffen Plan and at the Battle of Marne, but both attempts failed. Russia tried to attack Germany on the Eastern Front, but they were demolished at Tannenberg. The early battles taught Europe that this war would be won by playing smart defense, not risky offense. It was a lesson both sides learned quickly, and they would both end up changing their war strategy because of it.